Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Thanks for joining me today. I want to share some information with you. This is something that I've been dealing with for the last 9 months that I haven't talked about on the channel before, and I think it's a harbinger for what is to come, and it's going to affect you majorly. And nobody is talking about this, so stick with me and we'll break it down for you. So let's get right down to business here. As you know, I like to keep this channel strictly about survival and preparedness related content, and very seldom will I deviate from that path because that is what you subscribe for, and I like to honor your subscription by bringing you more of that information. But part of survivalism is the ability to forecast what's happening next. And I need to share some experiences that I've had with big tech with you so that you can be prepared for what's potentially coming down the pike. A lot of people are focused on social media censorship and laws, regulations. These are all important things. Your ability to say certain things and to reach a large audience is certainly going to have a lot of implications. But what I'm going to propose to you today, that's less important than what the other hand is doing. And what the other hand is doing is in the background drastically limiting, restricting, and making certain goods and services more inaccessible to you by putting up various barriers in order to purchasing or acquiring those things. How is this happening? Well, if you haven't noticed, then in the last 20 years or so, a very small handful of corporations now govern the process of online transacting. Online payment services, e-commerce platforms are becoming less and less and more consolidated and monopolized. For this reason, things like PayPal, Amazon, Shopify, Visa, MasterCard, these companies basically dictate in the future your ability to acquire goods and services, because brick and mortar is going the way of the dinosaurs. Small businesses in the future simply won't be able to compete by paying that overhead with the big mega corporations who can do business online. This is happening in stealth. Okay, everybody's talking about Twitter and people being canceled on these various social media platforms. Very few people are talking about what's going on over here. And this is arguably most important, because if at the push of a button, your ability to purchase and acquire goods online is erased, and we enter what is pretty much a cashless society. I mean, what's the point of cash if there's no brick and mortar stores to spend it at? Now, part of the reason why you can't advertise certain things on Google, why you can't sell certain things on Facebook, why PayPal won't let you use their payment system to buy certain things, is probably legal liability. I'm going to be very generous, and I'm going to say it's about that. I'm going to assume that it's nothing nefarious, that there isn't some clandestine agenda to somehow strip people of their rights without actually stripping them of their rights. But the main thing is that this is definitely happening, and how I know it's happening is because it's happened to me. I run an e-commerce platform where we serve up over 1,000 products from around 60 different distributors to over 100 countries. Now, the only reason why I'm even talking about this now is because the situation has at least temporarily been resolved after I put up with a fight with the Better Business Bureau, who, if you are having troubles with PayPal, I would encourage you to utilize the Better Business Bureau because they can help get your money back. What they did is they basically froze my account for 6 months. And when you're using a payment gateway like PayPal, basically 30 to 40% of all the people who buy stuff at my store are using PayPal. So it was a huge hit at the time, okay? Because now a lot of people were just turned away from the store because they couldn't utilize that service, which is basically the de facto way to pay for something if you don't have a credit card. I was under a lot of distress with this issue because, of course, when knowing that 30 to 40% of your business has just been canceled overnight is pretty substantial. The reason they gave for shutting me down, well, they didn't give any clear-cut reason. They just said that I was selling things that I wasn't supposed to be selling. Now, I should say that since this time, the problem has been rectified. I've utilized the Better Business Bureau to deal with the issue. I've got my account reinstated, and we are accepting PayPal once again because I really have no choice, okay? They're really the only thing out there, and I'm not just gonna boycott them. Me boycotting PayPal is like a mosquito boycotting a city. Nobody cares. But the thing that really shocked me about the whole experience was the nature of the stonewalling that you get from big tech. Now, remember, PayPal was just one of the companies within the span of 3 to 4 weeks that started cracking down on me, even though I was doing nothing wrong. I was well within the guidelines, and that's why I have those accounts back. But the process of being stonewalled by big tech, having to communicate with bots, it was the most distressing period, at least in my own recent years, that I've went through. Now, when PayPal suspends your account, they withhold whatever funds you have in the account, whether it's $5,000 or $1 million, it doesn't matter. They have a legal right to keep that money for 6 months. They had this ability to basically completely destroy my business almost. And I think a lot of businesses would have been destroyed had they not had a platform like I do and a community like I do that is very supportive. Now, one of the scariest things of all of this, though, was the manner in which it happened, the impersonal nature of it all, the draconian nature of it all. It was one of the most cryptic experiences. When PayPal suspends your account, they don't provide you with an in-depth reason. They send you this really cryptic message, okay? And the message is so strange. It's almost like they intentionally put various glitches and typos and errors on the screen just to make you say WTF. And it's almost like it's written by a bot. And of course, whenever you send them a question or a comment and ask them, why are you doing this? They're never going to give you a straight answer, okay? They always are going to give you the runaround. And now when I actually phoned PayPal, that was probably the most eerie of all of the experiences, because in talking to these people on the phone, it felt as though, for one, the people I was talking to they had no authority. They were basically reading a script. And it was like, they wanted to talk to me like a human being, but they simply couldn't. Their hands were tied. They had to follow the script or else they were going to lose their job. So I was probably on the phone with PayPal for about 5 or 6 hours that night. And they kept transferring me to a supervisor. Once, you reach the end of your rope talking to one person and getting nowhere, they said, okay, well, if you want, I can forward you to a supervisor. Okay, so all they were doing was just passing me around to another person. That's how they do things. They don't actually send you to a manager or a supervisor. They just pass you around. Yeah, okay, I was being a PayPal Karen when I got canceled, admittedly. I figured that if they were following some kind of verbal protocol, maybe if I kept them on the line and I pressed the right buttons and I said the right things, that would elicit a different pathway. Okay, and maybe I would actually get some answers, and I just wasn't saying the right thing. Eventually, several of them became very infuriated with me in a very punitive, argumentative, condescending sort of way, like speaking down to me as if I was just an insignificant child and I hadn't done very significant business with this company for the past 3 years. There was another big company that I don't really want to name who I do dealings with. And it's not this one, just FYI. It's not social media. Well, there is one social media, and that's Facebook, who I have no problem talking about. But this other company was also starting to bring the hammer down on me. They were saying some of the things I was selling, like tactical pens and security umbrellas, were somehow in violation of the terms of service. With Facebook, for instance, they sent me a list of hundreds, damn near my entire store, okay? A list of all these things that I could not sell. Some of these things were as harmless as food, like freeze-dried food, they labeled that as somehow contributing to medical and misinformation. Or they would brand various things weapons, like a ferrocerium rod. Basically, every item in my store was blacklisted by Facebook for some reason. That's why my shop is not active on Facebook. Now, I've been banned for them in the past because allegedly, again, selling things that I'm not supposed to, even though Amazon freely sells crossbows, bows, all these things that we sell, yet for some reason, the hammer is coming down on us. So I'm not saying this to be woe is me. I want to make that clear, and I probably should have made that clear from the get-go. This is not about me, okay? I'm doing fine. And the reason why I haven't brought this up yet is because I know a lot of people out there have been struggling much worse than I have been all year. And the last thing I want to do is burden people with my petty problems. But what concerns me the most is where this is going. Because you can clearly see that if you allow a small group of corporate entities to have the ability to dictate what gets transacted online, then it doesn't matter who writes the laws in a judicial sense. It matters who writes the terms of service. That's what it's going to boil down to. Now, again, I don't think that these corporations are letting their ideologies necessarily seep into what's going on, because they're in the business of making money. It's about money and power. If they could get more money and more power by selling prepping and survival supplies, maybe that would be the way things are going. I'm trying to stay away from the idea that there's some nefarious intent to deprive people of the things that they need in order to have an existence which is independent from the grid and government and all the rest. Although that's a pretty easy theory to propose at this point. But I would like to think that the profit motive is what is driving a lot of this. But if the profit motive is what is driving a lot of this, I think that in the future, the only things you're going to be able to buy online are video games, makeup, plastic garbage that you're going to throw away after a few days, maybe some psychopharmaceuticals to keep your rage suppressed and to keep you happy, some blue pills, right? I think that that's where this is going. Cryptocurrency will be a solution only insofar as doing one-to-one e-transfer is a solution. Like a lot of stores, particularly gun stores, may in the future be forced to take e-transfers for transactions, and that's going to drastically limit the amount of transactions they're able to do in a day. It's going to make it far harder and far more complex if you don't have these mediums of exchange there that are far more convenient to use. I mean, if I had to do a e-transfer for every single transaction that we did at my store online, I mean, I'd have no time in a day because it's very time consuming. So you can't do that. And that's probably what crypto is going to end up being in that sense, because a lot of crypto is going to be going through the major exchanges like Coinbase, which we do accept and which has been working so far. And Coinbase, to my knowledge, hasn't put any limitations on the things that you can purchase with your crypto online, or at least so I know. I'm sure there are some things to ensure that people aren't engaging in any illegal activity online. And again, we don't condone that. We always operate within the parameters of these corporations' terms of service. However, they're worded so ambiguously, and in the end, they have absolute power to just interpret that however they want. And there really is nothing you can do about it except go to a place like the Better Business Bureau. And if you're lucky, they'll actually be able to give them a nudge for you, and maybe they'll get back to you. Maybe they won't, because they know that the average person doesn't have the economic wherewithal to put up a legal fight against them. So, it is what it is. But I just thought that I would warn you guys about that, because that's what I'm seeing. The writing is on the wall for the dystopian future. So I would say, you're still pretty early to this prepping party in the grand scheme of things. You got a few years to get things squared away, to get things cashed away, if you know what I'm saying. And we're going to be doing videos on that in the not so distant future. So stick with me. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this whole experience that I had in the comment section below. Have you experienced something similar? Can you see what I'm seeing with all this? And can you see this sleight of hand where on the one hand, everybody is really fixated on this social media censorship issue, which is important, but I don't think it's as important as the actual mechanistic restrictions which are being put into place in the background. You know, we're focused on the foreground, but it's in this background where your ability to exercise rights and freedoms beyond just flopping your gums online are going to be impeded. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe. Canadian Prepper out.